Hello, and thank you for joining today. My name is Erin Brophy. I am the principal oboe of the Saskatoon Symphony and a sessional lecturer at the University of Saskatchewan. Today, we're going to go over 5 tips that are going to help your oboist play more in tune in your band. So today's a live presentation is for band directors. Before I start, I want to thank you for having oboe players in your band. It is not an easy thing. And I know too that you are supporting your oboist the best way you know how. And my offering for you today is in hopes of making it a little bit easier for you. The reason I'm doing this Facebook Live and part of my teaching philosophy has to do with how I started on the oboe. So I'm from Northern Ontario, Northern Canada. I grew up in a very remote place. Surrounded by beautiful rocks and trees and lakes, crystal clear lakes. It was a gorgeous place to grow up. And then I started the oboe. And that presented, being so far up north, presented a real challenge for me. And because I didn't have access to good information. I didn't have access to oboe players, and this is, of course, pre-internet. I didn't have access to good information. I really struggled. I really struggled on the instrument. I struggled with really bad reeds and non-functioning instruments and bad secondhand information. I was surrounded by wonderful musicians, and I was very blessed to have lots of wonderful band directors in my development. And they tried their level best, but they just didn't have the information about how to help an oboist. And it makes sense. I mean, how many trumpets and clarinets do you have in your bands, and how many oboe players do you have? It's just a question of numbers. So I totally understand. But my hope is that today's presentation will help you to help your oboe players. Because with a little bit of information, it makes a big difference to their experience of band. I'm also the director of a program called the Oboe Path. The Oboe Path is an online program that uses a group online masterclass, laser one-on-one feedback, and a personalized, customized plan to help an oboist play with joy and ease. Through the group online masterclass, oboists have access to a community of like-minded oboe players that helps them keep motivated to practice. Through their customized personal plan, they don't waste their practice time and have a very efficient experience of the instrument, and they see their progress immediately. Through the laser one-on-one feedback, they're able to practice with clarity. And what that means is that they play with more joy and ease. That's the live presentation today, talking about 5 tips to help your oboist play more in tune, is in line with my philosophy of the oboe path, which is that every single person who comes to the oboe has something to offer to it and something to learn from it. It's a wonderful instrument. Now, if you're a band director, you know that an oboe player that's struggling can destroy your band. Literally, like they're louder than any other instrument at the beginning. And I understand that can be frustrating as a band director. And my hope is that these 5 tips that I give you will help you have a better experience with your oboe player. So something I hear from a lot of the oboe students that I see is that their band directors are asking them to play more in tune. So today I'm going to focus on some ways that you can help your oboist play more in tune. Now, what I hear a lot from band directors is, why can't I just pull the oboe reed in and out on the instrument? Why doesn't that make a difference? And today I'm going to tell you. So the first tip I'm going to give you to help your oboe player play with more ease is to find and source handmade oboe reeds for your oboe student. The mass-produced reeds are fabulous for clarinet and saxophones, and that's great. Oboe reeds, the very tip of the oboe reed is as thin as a human hair, and what that means is that it is highly changeable. And mass producing these oboe reeds leads to very subpar reeds. The only way to get, and I wish it was different. I mean, I wish I could just pay money for a reed, but this is why oboe players make their own reeds. And what you can do for your oboist is source some handmade reeds by a professional oboe player. There are many professional oboe reed makers online now. And if you need a recommendation, I'd be happy to send you one. This will go a long way towards making your experience of your oboe player happier and your oboe player having more success with the instrument. The number one thing I see that oboists have a challenge with is their store-bought, mass-produced reed. As soon as they get onto a handmade reed, their life is very different. So that's tip number one. Tip number two is do not pull the reed in and out. And I'm going to show you why. The acoustics of the oboe are specific because we have a conical bore as opposed to the cylindrical bore that a lot of the other instruments have. And so the only part we can pull in and out is the reed. But as I'm going to demonstrate now, when you pull the reed in and out, it actually affects the overall acoustics of the instrument, and it throws all of the other notes out of tune. So that's one of the reasons why we are given the task and responsibility to tune the orchestra or the band, is because we need to have a very specific reed in order to play at the pitch that we're looking for. But let me demonstrate. So I'm going to play a B flat major scale. And this is with the reed pushed all the way in, which is what you want your oboe players to do, is to make sure they've pushed their reed all the way in. There's what we call a reed well, and they want to touch that reed well with their reed. And it leaves about this much of the cork. As you can see, the cork and then the string, about this much of the cork at the top. Okay, now I'm going to play a B flat major scale. And this is with the reed pushed all the way in. Nice in tune scale. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the reed out as if you would with a clarinet or a saxophone, and I'm going to play the same scale. So my teacher has told me that I am sharp, so I'm going to pull my reed out, and this is what happens to the overall scale. Here we go. So you can hear that some notes want to bark. I mean, and this is with a fancy oboe and a wonderful reed and a player who's used to playing. So it, as you can hear, it kind of made, especially at the beginning. And then the D doesn't want to come out at all. So pushing the reed in and out does not work. I'm going to tell you what does. Tip number 3. Making sure you have lots of reeds in your desk for your oboe player. If you have a responsible oboe player that can have many options of reeds in a reed case, that is terrific. If they're more at the beginning of their journey and you may not trust that they can keep 3 or 4 reeds safe, having options of reeds for them, especially if you're going into a concert or a festival or a competition of some kind, having 2 or 3 reeds so that when you tune the orchestra and you can hear that the oboe is quite out of tune, you can say, hey, I've got this new perfectly functioning handmade reed for you. And this will give them a great deal more success for the if the reed is the cause of their intonation being so wonky. And I would say that's probably the number one reason that oboe players are out of tune is because of their reed. It's possible their reed is cracked or it's been chipped or, you know, there's any number of calamities that can happen to that reed. So having a new reed for them will make a really big difference. The fourth thing that you can help encourage with your oboe player is having a flexible embouchure. Now, I'm going to show you how I change pitch on my instrument. So I have this reed that I've made, and I can actually alter the pitch a great deal with the flexibility of my embouchure. So I have my embouchure stays a pretty has a pretty solid setup that allows me to roll my lips in and out and change the pitch. Let me demonstrate. I'm going to play an A. And now I'm going to roll my lips out, and you're going to hear that I can go quite low. That's almost a full tone. And now I'm going to play that same A, and I'm going to go up. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to roll my lips in. So I can go up as well. So, you know, when you're working with your band and you hear that the oboe is out of tune, and where you would normally tell the clarinet to, you know, pull the barrel out a bit or just maybe take the bell off a bit, ask them to open up their mouth and roll out their lips. And that's going to help them go down. If you need them to go up, then ask them to roll their lips in a little bit. And that oboe players need that flexibility to be able to move our intonation. It's something that I curate in my students and help them with exercises about how to do this. But even just presenting the possibility to your oboe player that they can alter the pitch with their embouchure will make such a difference for them. Okay, my last tip of the 5 tips that are going to make your oboe player play more in tune is to tune your band with a tuner. So I hear, I can understand you come into a busy band room and you want to get the band tuned up, and you turn to the tubas or maybe the clarinets and you say, can we take your A? Or can we take your B flat? Or can we take your D? Whatever note you want to tune to. Now, if your oboe player is playing on a handmade reed, that handmade reed is tuned to a certain pitch. Now, if you're in North America, excluding Quebec, actually, that's not true. There's lots of different tuning places. That I tune at A440. There's a lot of different calibrations. Some places tune to 442, some places tune to 444. I don't care what the intonation is. I really don't. But if your oboe player has a 444 reed and you're tuning the band at 440, they have no hope of being able to be in tune with the rest of the band. So what I would encourage, I would love you to use the oboe player as the tuning person, but if you don't have confidence in that person's ability yet, I understand, and you want to take it from the tuba or the clarinet, please ask your tuba player, your clarinet player to use a tuner. This is an old school one because I'm old school, but you can use a tuner on your smartphone, and you're just getting them to do a reference pitch. So the tuba can pull out a valve just to make sure that they're at whatever place those reeds are made at, so whether it be 444 or 440. And if you're using clarinet, same thing, that they can pull out or pull in to be more in tune with, and then center the pitch. That's going to help. Well, not only the rest of your band play more in tune because your instruments are tuned to a certain tuning pitch, but it's also going to help your oboe player because their reeds are set up for that specific tuning note. Now, if you don't know what calibration the oboe reeds are at, just ask the reed maker. Are you making a 440 reed? Are you making a 442 reed? Just so you know your frame of reference. And that will help so much your oboe player to play more in tune with those around them. I really hope that these tips help you and I especially feel more confident with your oboe player. I hope that these tips help your oboe player. To that end, I have a special announcement. I am hosting a special oboe playing masterclass on October the 13th. There is more information forthcoming, and I will post it in the description of this live. Thank you very much, and let's all become the oboe players that everyone wants to play with. Play with joy and ease. Take care.